That's why I rock with him.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
That's why I rock with JV, man.
JV.
All right, what a Monday night football game. Lions 38, Baltimore Ravens 30. Craziness. But after a bunch of blocked field goals, some special teams miscues during the weekend, at least we got some familiarity with the Ravens shooting themselves in the foot once again, which is great. We're back, week 3, Monday Night Football. We are recapping Monday, Sunday here on the show. It's JV. You're back on the JV show, and I got my brother Steven back on for another great week. Steve, how you doing?
Well, it just feels like we witnessed like the most wild NFL slate of games I've ever seen, which is weird because, you know, the first hour, the 1 p.m. games, I'm like, this is like the worst NFL games I've ever seen in my life. No one's scoring, especially on my fantasy team. We had the worst matchups, it looked like. And then all of a sudden, it felt like every kick in every game got blocked. Every interception got returned for a touchdown. Every running back was fumbling. And then we had this primetime game, which now we felt like we had two Super Bowl contenders going at it. What a turnaround for the slate. Shout out to the NFL. Best league in the world.
Hey, after that Sunday Night Football disaster, Chiefs, Giants, I don't know who watched that game. I was snoozing. This was well-deserved. This was a great game. You know, it was kind of a lopsided event when it got to the end of the game. Lions really took over, which I was shocked about, and we'll get into it right now. Crazy game. Craziness. I did not expect the Detroit Lions to be this dominant against the Ravens. I had pinned the Ravens as my favorites to come out of the AFC, and while that still might hold true, it's just wild to me how pedestrian that offense looked, especially in the second half. They were just flat out shut down. It was pretty much 38-24 with a last-second touchdown, of course. But let's talk about the Ravens here, Steven. The Ravens can't help but beat themselves every single week. They do it consistently, and you can bet on it. That is 3 straight games of fumbles from Derrick Henry. They turn over the ball at the worst times. The defense is uber talented, but they can't put it together. That is 2 38-point or more games allowed by this defense. Zach Orr better pack his bags because Ravens fans are headhunting Zach Orr this week. The defense has too much talent on paper to be performing like this. Hey, maybe it's true that they aren't a top 10 defense like we had projected earlier on in the season, and maybe they're just not all that as a unit. But I don't know, man. It just seems off to me. There are so many things we can dive in to with the Ravens and how they performed tonight, but I want to hear your thoughts here first, Steve.
I think you said it well. Something seems off with this Ravens defense. Like, you look on paper coming this season, Jair Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Van Noy. This is one of the best units in the league. And then you see him play, and you're like, something's weird. Like, why aren't they as good as they should? They've given up 2 games now where they've 41 points in 38 on defense. It's not going to cut it. Here's this number for you. Ravens, first team in Super Bowl era to score 100-plus points, rush for 300 yards, and have a losing record. Also, the Ravens lead the league in points per game at 37, and they are 1-2 today, 0-2 against actual teams that people care about. Yeah, this defensive unit is not good. It didn't help that they had some guys out tonight. They had some guys out tonight in the front, and, of course, Jair Alexander. But Marlon Humphrey just got cooked all night. Their linebackers were not doing anything. Where was Roquan Smith? I feel like I didn't hear his name all night. So this offense for Baltimore, although it didn't really do much in the second half, albeit that garbage time touchdown, it's pretty unstoppable when you have Lamar and Derrick Henry when he's not choking away games in the clutch with fumbles. But this defense is an issue. It was an issue second half against Buffalo, and it was an issue again. They got bullied by the Lions. Sonic and Knuckles just looked like a video game out there for them with the rushing yards they were putting up.
You know what? And you said it best a few episodes ago, Steven. You compared Lamar and Derrick Henry to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And although I'm not a basketball guy, I know exactly the reference you were getting at. These two, KD. It's an unstoppable duo. And what the Lions did tonight, and we'll get into the Lions in a little bit here, was absolutely insane. The way that defense played, relentless pursuit to the ball, was absolutely amazing. But I do want to circle back here to the Ravens and highlight the coaching staff. For the Ravens to be 1-2 this season, to open up 1-2 for the Ravens, that screams coaching problems to me. First and foremost, already mentioned it, Zach Orr, he's got to be careful. That defense cannot allow 38 points from the Lions, 41 points from the Bills, and I guess the Browns, obviously, you can talk about that game, whatever. That's a write-off. But that is horrendous. This was supposed to be a top 10 defense this year, and they look like they're bottom 5. When you got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, a superpower on offense, and you can't support them, holding offenses to at max 30 points a game, I mean, what are we talking about? It just doesn't make sense to me. Mike McDonald, a lot of people were saying, shouldn't have let him go, and it's looking like that's becoming a huge problem. And then you talk about John Harbaugh. A lot of people, including myself, have called John Harbaugh, for his job. And I'm like thinking, you got Lamar. You've had so many countless opportunities in the playoffs, and maybe Lamar hasn't been the brightest of stars when it comes to playoff performances, but I think he's given them enough. And again tonight, you abandon the run. Derrick Henry has 12 carries. You shoot yourself in the foot. I had a lot of questions concerning the fourth down stop on the goal line to end the half. They got stuffed on the first 3 plays and just ran back out there and ran what seemed like an impromptu play that they weren't prepared for. I mean, it just didn't look like the Ravens were prepared. This is supposed to be the year for the Baltimore Ravens, and if they can't even crack a conference championship game, I'm concerned about John Harbaugh. I'm very concerned about Zach Orr. Lamar Jackson, I mean, he did what he could tonight, holding on to the ball way too long. Now, I don't know if that's because receivers couldn't get separation. They weren't getting open tonight. Was that a Lamar problem? Hasn't been a huge problem for him historically, so I'm not going to blame it on him. But listen, 7 sacks, that's a serious problem. You got to figure things out if you're Baltimore. That's really, really bad.
They needed Derrick Henry really bad in that game. And, you thought first drive of the game, oh, this is going to be a classic Derrick Henry game where he's just going to run all over these guys for 200 yards, similar to what he did against Buffalo and what he did all of last season. But unlike last season, where's been closer Derrick Henry? Remember last year it felt like every time they played a good team, it would be a one-score game. Lamar would just sit back, hand off to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, similar to Saquon, would just bust a 60-yard run and end the game. That has not happened this year. In fact, he just fumbles away in the clutch. Where's the closer? As good as Derrick Henry's been in the first quarter, they need him late. Lamar just can't do it himself, especially if he's going to get sacked 7 times. He needs Derrick Henry, his MVP-level Offensive Player of the Year teammate, to just take some pressure off him. It's the whole reason why they brought him in, so Lamar can have another X-Factor teammate on offense, and Derrick Henry has the most fumbles in the league. He has a fumble in every game.
It shocks me that they abandoned the run in the big games, that they only gave Derrick Henry 12 total carries tonight. 3 carries per quarter. Unreal. I just don't understand it. But I do have to give a round of applause to the job of that Detroit Lions defense tonight. Unreal performance. Kevin Shepard coached the game of his life for that Lions defense. Now, I got to be honest, I wasn't very high on the Detroit Lions coming into the season. Said they would probably make the playoffs, but I thought the coordinator losses both on offense and defense would sting too much. They lost some really important pieces to that interior offensive line. Didn't know how they would look. Week 1, man, they sure as hell didn't look good, but these last 2 weeks have been incredible, and it all starts on that defense. To sack Lamar Jackson 7 times might be impossible in the NFL, but the Lions defense showed up tonight, and they did exactly that. There was nothing going for that Ravens offense, especially in the second half. They held them to 24 points, or 30 points. I mean, we can include that last-second touchdown, but for me, that offense was stalled, and that's like accomplishing holding the Browns to 10 points. Like, it's equivalent. It's very difficult to manage Lamar, his passing abilities, his rushing threat, and Derrick Henry, and they did it perfectly. They had the perfect game plan set out all night long. That Ravens offense just, they couldn't figure it out. They looked relentless pursuing the ball. Big time turnover with Derrick Henry. When the game was tight, flip momentum, the defense took it over. And as much as I love Aaron Glenn, and I thought missing Aaron Glenn would leave such a huge hole on this defense, Kevin Shepherd is pumped up. He looks juiced up with that defense. He looks like a perfect fit right now. And I got to give him a round of applause because I did not expect this from him, the defense, or the Lions as a whole.
Yeah, that was like the ultimate don't count us out just yet performance. I mean, everyone and their mother faded the Lions coming into the season. Even I did, and you just said you did, because they did lose 2 coordinators, to be fair, elite ones. Just go ask the Eagles in 23 how that worked out for them. It was brutal. And then week 1, obviously, they get smacked in Green Bay, and then everyone starts dropping them down their power ranking. So many questions. Can they run the ball? Is their offense creative? Defense, are they even good? Is Jared Goff the guy? There was a lot of stuff happening out of that week 1 performance, considering the narratives coming into the season. But I think everyone might want to reconsider those power rankings now because that looked like the same old Lions. They look like contenders. Offense looked super creative. Defense can still get to the quarterback still, and Dan Campbell still has the balls to go for it on 4th down when he's not supposed to. So, I mean, that was like the ultimate don't forget about us game. I think the Lions, pretty much for the most part, their coordinators offensively, and you touched on defensively, it looked like they really took notes from Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and made sure, yeah, week 1, we might just stop overreacting to week 1s and just like chalk up any bad loss in week 1 going forward because Detroit looks really good, man. It didn't look like, I mean, if you take out week 1, they've scored 90 points in the last 2 games. Defensively, they've also done a really good job, too, forcing turnovers in back-to-back games, getting to the quarterback. 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson, that's virtually impossible.
You know what? And maybe that's a testament to the defensive powerhouse that the Packers have going on. Maybe that defense is just unreal. And the Lions went and balled out in their next 2 games and just destroyed the Cowboys. Obviously, that defense is horrendous. And the Ravens, that defense doesn't look too good either. I'm happy you brought up Jared Goff. I want to touch on him before we flip to Sunday Night Football here because tonight, Jared Goff was surgical against the Ravens. And you get these performances from Goff, and you're like, wow, I can't believe it. He looks unreal. He looked so calm, so under control of that offense. He was finding Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was poetry I was watching on the screen. I thought it was incredible to see, but I've talked about Jared Goff, and, you know, he is a stationary quarterback, doesn't have any mobility whatsoever. He really is the last of a dying breed of pocket quarterbacks in the NFL. Even today, you got guys like your Brock Purdy, your Daniel Jones, who we'll talk about today, who got that sneaky athleticism and the ability to move outside the pocket. Jared Goff just doesn't have that, and you could see it when you watch him play, but when Jared Goff has perfect protection, he's dangerous, and he can tear you up. So I'm curious, Steve, where do you have Jared Goff off the dome right now as far as quarterback rankings go? Because I've seen the good of Jared Goff. I've seen the bad of Jared Goff. I've seen Goff throw 5 interceptions in a game and throw 5 touchdowns in a game. So you really don't know what you're going to get. He's always played with really great talent and really great coordinators. This year he's shown up at points, but he also hasn't been the best. I want to hear your thoughts.
I think you got to have Jared Goff as a top 10 quarterback, right? I mean, he's been to 2 NFC championships with different teams. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. I mean, yeah, I'm not as high on Jared Goff's playmaking and mobility. I think that's where he lacks and what holds him back from being in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. But I can see him being in the top 10 because, like you said, you give that guy time to throw. You give that guy an Amon-Ra St. Brown getting open. Not many people throw a ball better in the pocket than Jared Goff. That throw on 4th down to St. Brown, that was a hell of a throw. That was just a hell of a throw.
Disgusting.
And I got to give Jared Goff credit where credit's due. He can really throw the football. You give him time in the pocket, he can slice a defense up and down the field. Seems like he's not panicking, too. He was really in command tonight. They didn't ask much from him, too, but when they did ask for him to make a few throws, he made throws. I'd say Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback in this league. I wouldn't say top 5, but I think he's closer to 10 than 15, just given the production that he's had in the last 3 years. I mean, we were worried about, oh my gosh, is Jared Goff going to go back to – remember week 1 when they lost? There were stats going around where Jared Goff record without McVay and Ben Johnson, and I think he was like 0-13-1. I'm blanking off the top of my head. But now these last 2 games, he's led an offense that scored 90 points.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I was so off the Jared Goff hype train, and he had so much success in Detroit, and obviously it's still happening. I want to see how he progresses through the season, how the team looks as the season progresses and as it moves forward, as they play some better defenses. Obviously, the Cowboys and the Ravens, as I've seen for right now, haven't looked too good, but it is impressive from what I've seen, and I'm guilty of maybe fading the Lions to start the season, despite them having still a very talented roster. I want to pivot here, Steve, to Sunday Night Football. Snooze Fest. Chiefs 22, Giants 9. Let's talk Chiefs first here. Look, here's my take. The Chiefs aren't elite, but they can return to that form if the cards fall the right way for them. That Mahomes to Thornton connection is growing every single week, but there are still huge holes on the offense. The run game is still super iffy. Pacheco and Hunt, they're fine, but I don't think it's anything to rave about. If the pass game is rolling, I think they'll be better, but that's going to require a few weapons returning back to the starting lineup, which won't happen till later on in the season. Travis Kelce is phasing out of this offense. He's looking at retirement. He's staring at Taylor Swift. They got engaged. He's moving on. He's acting in movies. It's over. They need to find a new, reliable number 1 guy. The upside, though, the defense is elite. They're averaging 18.5 points against per game. Last year, they were averaging 20.4 points per game, including the playoffs. So this is the same team that we saw make the Super Bowl last year. The only difference is that the Chiefs aren't closing out these one-possession games like they were doing last year. That's why they're starting 1-2. So I think the Chiefs are actually in a more favorable position than most think. They're flying under the radar right now. I don't think people have given enough credit to that defense. And yes, the offense is slow, but just imagine, Rashee Rice returns. Xavier Worthy returns. The offense starts putting up 24, 27, 30 points a game. I think that Chiefs defense is good enough for them to make the playoffs, for them to win a wild card game, because I don't necessarily think they'll be the bye team this year, and to shake things up again. Do not doubt Mahomes and Reed until we see it with our own eyes. What do you think, Steve?
Let me know if this takes weird. I don't think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, but weirdly enough, I don't think anyone's still beating them in the postseason. It's weird. Like you said, the defense is still elite. Their problem is run game sucks. But if they get their 2 receivers back, I think they can overcome the run game because Mahomes is also a good runner himself. Here's my thing. I think you can kind of kiss the AFC West goodbye, just given how the Chargers are playing. The Chargers are going to run away with it. But Baltimore just lost tonight. There's many teams in the AFC 2-1, 1-2. Chiefs are 1-2. So you got to be feeling like the door's still open for Kansas City to make a run. I think, listen, Kelsey's kind of washed, but I still think Mahomes is playing great. I think he's playing great. The balls he's giving to Thornton. If he's throwing those balls to Thornton, imagine what he's going to throw to a healthy Rice and Worthy. I think when they get those 2 back, along with this defense, you put them in a postseason, they're probably not going to have home field advantage throughout. It won't go through Arrowhead this year. But I'm still not counting the Chiefs out. Some people really want to fade the Chiefs and get rid of them because it's like New England. It got to a certain point where, like, I'm just tired of these guys. Can someone else win? So people are really trying to bury Mahomes and Kansas City and kick them off the mantle. Yeah, they're not the best team in the AFC right now. But, man, in like 6 weeks, they got their 2 receivers back. I can still see them winning through the AFC in the playoffs.
You know what? And something that people don't take into account, but matters a lot, especially when January and February roll around. the waves that NFL teams ride, the momentum that NFL teams get by week 14 and 15 can matter a lot more than squeaking into the playoffs at 11-6. Like if you start the year off real strong and you kind of fade out by the end, but you happen to make the playoffs, kind of like a Pittsburgh Steelers type deal, I'm rolling with a team that maybe has a little bit of a worse record, but has a lot of hype going into the playoffs. Last year, you got the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. They rode that hype to the conference championship game. Here's the thing with the Chiefs now. They're off the public's radar. People don't care about the Chiefs. They have written them off. So just imagine this defense is playing super physical. They get Worthy back. They get Rice back. Maybe, hell, they even add somebody else to this offense. Mahomes is still balling, and they come out of nowhere. I wouldn't write the Chiefs off yet. I just wouldn't. I know that these games are really boring. They're dull. The offense sucks. But you can see the bright spots, and I don't want to count them out yet because just like you said, you got the Ravens at 1-2, the Texans at 0-3, the Broncos at 1-2. There are a lot of good teams right now that didn't start the season out too strong. So I wouldn't be so quick to jump on that hate train on the Chiefs. They're going to come around, and they're going to cause some teams some problems. As for the Giants on Sunday Night Football, Steve, Russell Wilson shouldn't be a starting quarterback anymore. It was very obvious. Like, it was made extremely obvious that Russell Wilson is a complete and utter liability for the Giants. He is a one-trick pony, and that's fine. Like, we've known that. But I'm saying give Jackson Dart the starting job right now. It is shocking to me when you watch Russell Wilson play. Even when the well is dry, he keeps going back to it. He keeps going back. He wants to force feed the ball down the field. He puts it into double coverage. That's exactly how Malik Neighbors got injured on Sunday against the Chiefs. The deep ball is where Russ lives and he dies. He lives and dies by it. And it is a tough watch because really that's all he does. He's not an intermediate thrower right now. He can't do much mobility-wise. He's getting up there in age, and he's holding this Giants offense back. We can talk all we want about vintage Russ in week 2 against the Cowboys. That's not sustainable, and it's the Dallas Cowboys with Matt Eberflus. Like, it's over. I say give Dart the opportunity, and none of this BS read option, put him in 1 or 2 plays and run the ball with Jackson Dart. Like, give him a serious opportunity, Steven.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Sunday night performance from Russ was one of the hardest watches I've ever seen from a quarterback.
Did you watch that red zone trip?
That goal-to-goal situation, he threw the ball out of bounds 3 times, and one of them was a quarterback draw. So 4 plays, he threw the ball 3 times out of bounds, didn't put the ball in play, and the other was a quarterback draw to a 37-year-old quarterback. I don't know how you trot this guy out next week. Now, I wouldn't trot him out next week simply because they play the Chargers defense. That might be a rough one for Jackson Dart's first start. I would put Jackson Dart in next week when they play the Saints because then he gets a little cakewalk game against the Saints defense because after the Saints game, it's Eagles, Broncos, Eagles. That's kind of brutal for Jackson Dart. But I think the most underrated part of the Giants that no one's talking about is they got really good players. They do. Yes. I think they have a solid – this is not like Tennessee when you're like, oh, God, this team sucks. No, like the Giants got dogs. And here you got Russell Wilson, who I thought bought himself some time for the first 3 quarters against the Cowboys. But since he threw that pick in overtime against the Cowboys, it's been downhill. He's been the worst quarterback in the league since. Because like you said, he's really just a one-trick pony now. He doesn't do anything short. Oh, he does do checkdowns, but he doesn't do anything intermediate. He doesn't really run much anymore because he lost his step. He can really only throw the moon ball. But since that pick against Dallas in overtime, he's barely thrown the ball down the field, and when he's done, it's been 3 interceptions. So, yeah, they said they're evaluating everything this morning. I would play Russ one more game, not throw Jackson Dart against the Chargers. But Russ he's just been atrocious. You just can't do that to your fans and the locker room because there's also jobs on the line too.
It is unlimited losses with Russ. Like unlimited, dude. It is so bad. And you see the facial expressions of your star Malik Neighbors, and I get it, receiver diva, whatever. I love what you said, Steve, in that there is a lot of salvageable talent on this team. The defense is a lot better than people give it credit for, and the offense has some studs. You got Cam Scadaboo, who is turning out to be the steal of the draft. 120 total yards and a touchdown on the weekend against the Chiefs. Malik Neighbors, he is a dog. They couldn't find an answer for him on the weekend. They couldn't get him the ball, but he's a dog. When you draw up plays, when you got a quarterback that knows what he's doing and can pass over the middle, Malik Neighbors will produce. And you got Wan'Dale Robinson, who I'm super high on as well. Tyrone Tracy, I believe he got injured during the game, but he's also a young star up and coming. You got a lot of talent on this Giants team. Don't put it to waste with Russ. See what Jackson Dart can do. The schedule is a juggernaut. Like, the NFL did the Giants so dirty, giving them this schedule. They are struggling, and it's bad. But you know what? I think they got a shot in a few of these games if they can just get some consistent quarterback play. Talking about consistent quarterback play and maybe even game managing, Steven, I want to flip to Minnesota Vikings 48, Bengals 10. This was a battle of the backups, Browning versus Wentz. Let's talk Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings. I was super high on the Vikings coming into the season. Now, maybe JJ wasn't everything I expected within those first 2 weeks. Saw some good things, saw a lot of negatives, but I think Carson Wentz exemplified more of what I expected from this offense and from this team. Because if Wentz can manage the offense, the Vikings are contenders. The Vikings need a game manager, and they're a playoff team. Flat out. The offense has stars. Justin Jefferson. You got a good offensive line when it's healthy. Jordan Mason has become one of the better running backs in the league. That's been one of the biggest additions of the year. Let's talk about the defense. The defense is amazing under Brian Flores. You got Jalen Naylor on offense, who is a phenomenal number 3 option. You got Jordan Addison on the way back. All you need from a quarterback is to manage the game, facilitate the weapons on offense, and take care of the ball. Carson Wentz did exactly that on the weekend. 14 of 20, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Defense put up multiple scores on the scoreboard. This defense will keep you in games. And Steven, there's a big difference when you look at Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo in the past, Sam Darnold last year, and you look at Herbert historically. Those quarterbacks have been in great situations and have made it a lot farther than a guy like Justin Herbert in the playoffs. And you got to wonder, why is that? It's because teams and structure in the NFL matters a lot more than individual talent more times than not. And I think that's what the Vikings got. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I know these guys are veterans, but Wentz in that Vikings performance over the weekend was exactly why I was so concerned with J.J. McCarthy's first 2 games in the NFL. Because I saw Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Sam Darnold, now Carson Wentz throw for multiple touchdowns and 300 yards with all these weapons. And here comes J.J. McCarthy, and he's throwing interceptions, fumbling the ball, taking all these sacks, and the offensive output's terrible. Because this is supposed to be the most quarterback-proof offense in the league. You get your, trying to get your offensive line healthy. Now Addison's coming back. Mason, Aaron Jones goes down, but you got Jordan Mason. Of course, you got maybe the best wide receiver in football in Justin Jefferson. This offense is supposed to put up 20 to 30 points a game minimum just because of the talent in O'Connell calling the plays. And with J.J. McCarthy, after that Sunday Night Football performance, I'm like, geez, dude, like, holy, like, come on. This is the most quarterback-proof offense, and I get it's your second game in the NFL, but you're putting up that. So to see Carson Wentz, again, I know they're veterans. Carson Wentz, been a Pro Bowl talent, been on multiple teams, led some playoff squads. I get all that. But you can't help but feel more concerned about J.J. McCarthy, given that he's in this system, and yet he just looks so bad.
I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean. And I don't think that the talent that J.J. provides is anything incredible, but I'm expecting a quarterback just to walk into the offense and do his job. You don't got to be extraordinary. You don't got to be Josh Allen and put on a cape and go win the game for your entire team. All you got to do is just manage. Do the right things on offense, take care of the ball, and the rest of the squad will do the job for you. That defense for 3 straight weeks has kept them in the game. Week 1 against the Bears kept them in the game. Week 2 against the Falcons, for the majority of the time, for what they could salvage, kept them in the game. And week 3, they put multiple scores on the board. They got the team to do it, the coaching to do it. All they need is a consistent quarterback to walk in, and hey, if Wentz is the guy, Wentz is the guy. Who cares? As long as you can win games, and I get it's the Bengals, and we'll talk about them right away, and the defense is bad, but that was an encouraging game from a team that has the talent to make the playoffs. As for the Bengals, you realize what Joe Burrow means for this franchise when he is out and you watch them play with a backup. But even more so, I'm realizing what a huge mistake it was to pay T. Higgins. Paying T. Higgins was Cincinnati's worst decision, potentially in franchise history. In 3 games this year, 104 total yards, that's 35 yards per game, and 1 touchdown. This is a guy who's missed 5 games in back-to-back seasons, but Cincinnati felt compelled, and they felt it was necessary to pay him a $28 million contract over 4 years. That is more than Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, and a lot of other big-time receiver names. Wide receiver 2, Steven, it's never a priority. It never is. Unless you're gunning for a Super Bowl and this is your year and you got A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and you got the team to do it, you should not be paying a $28 million contract per year to T. Higgins. And you're realizing the effects, the damage that contract is doing now that Joe Burrow is out, now that he's not producing. It just doesn't make sense. But again, this is why the Bengals consistently lose and are a bottom-feeding organization.
See, I actually disagree. I was one of the people who said they had to pay T. Higgins just because given how their offseason was shaping up and how they could build a team going into the season, they had no choice but to pay T. Higgins because their defense wasn't going to get much better through free agency. It had to be through the draft. So what are they going to do with this money? Well, they might as well maximize Joe Burrow in this offense because they can't run the ball. So you just might as well just give Joe Burrow another receiver. Philly's paying another receiver as well, and it's working out just fine with them. I think they're just having a hard time getting T. Higgins the ball. I still think T. Higgins is one of the 15, 20 best wide receivers in the league, and on a good day, looks like a top 10 wide receiver in the league. They just need to do a better job getting the ball. Of course, Burrow going down. So Burrow only got to play the first 2 games of the season. We all know Burrow first 2 games of the season is never all that spectacular, and then he goes down. So that definitely massively hurt T. Higgins' production. I still think signing T. Higgins was worth it. Yes, it was a lot of money, but it's because they paid him late. If they would have took care of him earlier, we wouldn't have these problems. But Cincinnati. I think it was the right decision. They got to do a better job of getting him the ball because he is a real excellent wide receiver. And I think he maximizes their offense to when they're all healthy at being one of the best in the league. But when Burrow goes down, listen, I think Jake Browning's pretty solid. 23, he was a 500 quarterback steering the ship. It's not like Cincinnati's season's over, especially that Baltimore is 1-2, and the Browns are the Browns, and I think that Steelers thing's going to fall off, and they're going to win no more than 9-10 games. So the Bengals season isn't over, but Browning's play was just unacceptable. I don't know if we're going to get into that, but you have 5 interceptions in essentially 6 quarters. You can't have that. I think Browning's pretty solid, and he held his own with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in 23. But, dude, they can't run the ball, too, and their offensive line's terrible, and their defense obviously sucks. But, like, bro. Browning,
It was...
You got to be discouraged when Browning just makes the Vikings defense look like the greatest of all time.
You know what? And it's a good defense, but for Isaiah Rodgers to have the greatest defensive performance I've ever watched with my own eyes.
It's the best in PFF history, I think. It's a perfect defensive game.
Like, what are we talking about? And I agree with you, Steve. I thought Browning going into the game from what I had seen, and I still believe he's a solid upper echelon backup in the NFL, but that was just abysmal. And just to clarify, as far as T. Higgins goes, I don't think T. Higgins is a bad player. You know, I've never thought – I think T. Higgins is a super valuable asset, but at the moment, half your salary cap is going to 3 guys or 4 guys right now if you include Hendrickson on defense. You don't got a lot of money to work with to delegate to free agency acquisitions or trades or whatever you're going to get into. That means you got to draft well. That's what Philly does exceptionally well, but the Bengals just don't. They don't draft well. They just don't draft well. Besides Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they haven't been good in that category of their franchise. So that's where they're hurting right now. And, I think T. Higgins should have gotten paid wherever he went, but I just don't think where Cincinnati's at right now with the holes on the offensive line, with the defense being as bad as it is, just torn up by Minnesota, I just don't see it. With the run game missing, this team is so far from returning back to Super Bowl form. Even if Joe Burrow is healthy, Steven, I'm curious your thoughts before we pivot over here to Colts and Daniel Jones. I don't know. I just don't see it with Joe Burrow unless this team has a massive improvement out of nowhere.
Like as far as Super Bowl contention?
As far as Super Bowl contention.
No, I mean, that was never on the table coming into the season. That was never on the table. They needed a whole nother draft class for that to even be on the table. No. But I thought they'd make the playoffs like 7th seed. They were just going to have a little bit of a better defensive season, have some more luck on their side because they got as bad as their defense was last year. There were just some games where offense was so great they just got screwed. Field goals missed here, turnover in bad spot here. Couldn't get a stop there. If they had one game go their way last year, they would have made the playoffs. And I thought that was going to happen this year. I mean, they beat the Browns. They beat Jacksonville to start 2-0 for the first time in God knows how long. But then Burrow goes down. But I don't think their season's over. But they were never contenders to begin with.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. As far as the Colts go, Steven, this is a team, and you get these teams every single year that just surprise the hell out of you. They've been won. Starting 3-0, Colts 41 this week, Titans 20. Daniel Jones, 18 of 25, 228 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. The majority of his incompletions were drops. They were on point. I can't say I saw too many poor throws. Listen, Daniel Jones is playing at an all-pro level, and it is amazing to see. I did not expect this. This came out of far left field, but this is week 3 of Daniel Jones's clinic in the NFL, and he has yet to disappoint. And I'm honestly just waiting on it. It feels unreal and awkward to see Daniel Jones balling at such a high level consistently week after week. But he is making pro-level throws look easy. Super confident, very patient, letting plays develop, letting concepts breathe. He is making throws into tight windows. He's making things happen on the ground. There was a huge scramble on the 3rd drive of the game. It was absolutely unreal. He's standing out there at 6'4", looks like an animal, watching things develop, picking apart defenses. Don't underestimate his athleticism. It's very sneaky, but he's got it. And also, we cannot forget about how valuable it is to have a guy like Jonathan Taylor who can put up 100 rushing yards on any given Sunday. A guy like Tyler Warren coming out of the draft who fell in their lap, and they capitalized on that. And they got a lot of good young receivers over there as well who have been putting in work. But man, Daniel Jones looks really good. You think it's sustainable?
I don't know. I mean, as a Colts fan, I don't think I've ever been more surprised in my life. I didn't see this coming at all. I was one of those people coming in the season, and there was a lot of us who were just upset on starting Daniel Jones in the first place because we all kind of felt it coming, but we never wanted to admit it because we were both under the impression, okay, Daniel Jones sucks. Anthony Richardson sucks. You might as well just start Richardson to give him more reps because why would you start Daniel Jones? He's going to lead the most boring 9-8, 8-9 season you'll ever see. And what an opposite season this has been. This has been the most fun Colts team I've seen since Luck. Like, oh my gosh. Now, I don't know if it's sustainable, but the Saints had 2 great games last year and they fell off the tracks. A lot of it was also due to injuries. But the Colts have now gone 3 games and they look like one of the best offensive units in the league. Daniel Jones looks impressive. He's making throw out. It's not like Daniel Jones is getting carried. Daniel Jones is making some big-time throws. And, of course, he's got Jonathan Taylor, decent receiving core. But, dude, I think this might be another, Viking season Sam Darnold last year, where this is sustainable for about 17 games. Are they going to win a playoff game? I want to bet money on the Colts winning a playoff game. Depends what their matchup is and depends how many games they end up winning for their seeding. But I think this could be the Vikings Sam Darnold season all over again, where a guy comes from a smart offensive play caller on the bench, then wasn't supposed to be the starter going into the season, but he ends up being week 1 and just completely changes his life. Daniel Jones is going to get a contract, it seems like. Kind of like how we were saying about Sam Darnold after week 3. This guy's going to get another contract.
Yes.
He looks really good. The team is winning because of him. If there was another quarterback back there, they would not be as good.
It is absolutely crazy. And I'm watching Daniel Jones, and there are some throws he's making over the middle in these pockets of the field. And again, he's a veteran, right? It's not like he's a rookie and it's surprising that he can make these throws. He's an NFL player, right? He's an NFL quarterback. He succeeded. He took his team to the playoffs in New York. Kevin O'Connell liked him, brought him in, learned behind him in that system for what that's worth. But, man, I'm just watching him pick apart defenses and make these throws into these windows. And it's amazing. It is amazing. He is playing right now like a top 10 quarterback in the league. And if he can keep it up, what's the future for Anthony Richardson? If he plays like this for the entire season, playoff win or not, they're giving him a contract. You got to bring him back. And then what's next for Anthony Richardson?
Oh, he's done. If they bench
he's
him
got to
going
be.
into the season for Daniel Jones, this isn't like a J.J. McCarthy situation where J.J. McCarthy blows his knee out and you didn't even have a chance to let him play. Nah, Anthony Richardson got benched.
Yeah. He asked to get benched last year. He didn't just get benched.
Going to keep playing like this, then it's pretty much over for Anthony Richardson. You just trade him for a pick and just call it a day and run it back with Daniel Jones?
Yeah, it's got to be the way.
It's
We're
too early
early
to
in the
talk about the
season,
future,
right?
though.
Of course. It's week 3, but from what I've seen so far, holy smokes, is it encouraging? Last game I wanted to hop to.
Real quick, because we did that with Sam Darnold last season. Talking about, are the Vikings really just going to pick him over JJ? Then the last 2 games of the regular season and the playoffs happened, and then you're like, oh, okay, all right, JJ. But so I'm going to pump the brakes with Daniel Jones, but it's been pretty fun watching so far.
For sure, and real quick too, Sam did get a contract. I think if he plays like this, regardless of a playoff win, if he shits his pants when January rolls around, there's still going to be a team out there looking for a quarterback that'll pay him $30 million if he plays like this all year.
Daniel Jones, for sure.
Exactly, 100%. But again, real early to tell. He's playing really great, though. I want to hop to Browns-Packers really quick. Probably the biggest upset of the week. Browns 13, Packers 10. Just a brutal game from the Packers. They looked disinterested. They looked like they took the Browns for granted. Listen, I can't blame them. It's the Cleveland Browns. But at the same time, this is the NFL. Shit can happen. Things can get shaken up. It happened. They got upset. Jordan Love, 18 of 25, 183 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Here's my take, Steven. Jordan Love can be the Achilles heel for the Packers. He's really good. He's extremely talented. He can throw the rock. He looks like the next guy up after your Favre, after your Rodgers. The Packers do very well with franchise quarterbacks. But the one issue with Jordan Love that is recurring is his turnover problem. The talent is undeniable, but sometimes he can't close out big games. And what happens when it comes down to the wire in these close games, what defines them? It's the big moments. Usually what happens in the NFL, games are close. It's one-score games against divisional teams in the playoffs. The games are tight. You don't have the leeway to be turning over the ball here and there and making careless mistakes against a team like Philly, like you did 3 times in the playoffs. The big moments matter. And at the end of the day, it's who can make bigger moments and more of them down the stretch. Jordan Love has a tendency to turn over the ball and put it in harm's way and throw really bad interceptions when the game is on the line. And he swings the momentum to the other team, and he loses it. He loses grasp on the game. That's exactly what happened against the Browns. Now, I do not want to overlook the fact he had pressure in his face all day long. The Browns had like 5 sacks. Offensive line was out to lunch. They didn't care about him all game long. Just looked like the team was disinterested. But Jordan Love, this has always been my concern. The Packers are a great team. The defense is incredible. I'm writing this week off for them just like I am for the Falcons against the Panthers. But there is some truth to what we just saw. Jordan Love concerns me when the games are big, and his arm, he puts the ball in harm's way.
I agree, too. You feel like the Packers are one of the best teams in the NFL. They got good receivers when they get guys like Jaden Reed healthy. And, of course, their defense with now Micah Parsons might be the best unit in the league. But you can go all the way back to the divisional round game in 2023. Jordan Love, game-losing interception in San Francisco. You always have this concern about him as he's on this really good team, but can he just close the game and just not have this reckless, boneheaded, back-breaking, game-losing turnover? And he did that in San Francisco, and I've always worried about it. And, of course, he did it against the Cleveland Browns, who, albeit their defense looks like elite. But that's my concern if the Packers are going to lose in this postseason, because this is one of the best teams in the league. And I think Jordan Love is a damn good quarterback. But if they are going to lose in this postseason, you kind of feel like it's going to be on Jordan Love. Jordan Love is going to have that turnover in the fourth quarter where you're just like, geez, dude, are you serious? And it costs them the game. Did it at San Francisco 2 years ago, which was a crossbody, boneheaded, like, come on,
right
dude.
Across the middle.
They tell you that stuff in middle school. Don't throw across your body. And then now he threw that pick to Grant Delpit, which was pretty bad. He lost to the Cleveland Browns, which, by the way, I don't care how. Contenders can have one or bad losses a year. That's fine. But, dude, Cleveland's defense is really good, and that was in Cleveland, but they should never have lost that game at all.
It shouldn't have been close. For most people, I'm assuming they lost money on that game. You gotta. Like,
They
who
scored
was
10
betting on the
points.
Browns?
Like, that shouldn't happen. Even though the Browns' defense is really good.
I know. It's just unacceptable. And the weird thing about Jordan Love, you can catch Jordan Love in the hottest of games. He can be on the hottest of streaks and still have a careless, unnecessary turnover in the fourth quarter. And the thing with Love, too, it's not like he's having these turnovers at forgivable times. He turns the ball over at the worst possible times. At the end of the half. At the end of the fourth quarter. Sometime when you need to be clutch. He's turning over the ball. I mean, the pick against the Browns, it was unreal. He was on his heels, threw it right to the DB. I couldn't even tell you what he was looking at. It wasn't even like it was close to his receiver. So, again, great team. I'm not overreacting. The Packers, they can lose 1 or 2 games. Ravens last year, they lost to the Raiders. They still made it far in the playoffs. They were competing. It happens, right? Like, you will lose to some bad teams. It's the NFL. Things don't always go your way. But, man, it is always happening that Jordan Love turns over the ball in close games. Yeah. And that's why I've always faded the Packers in big moments. Now, maybe it'll change. It changed for Josh Allen. Now he's a certified baller. He hasn't turned over the ball yet this year as far as interceptions go. Mm-hmm. But right now, that's a glaring issue for a star-studded team, especially now that you got Micah and that defense is balling. That was a wrap on Week 3 Monday Night Football. Steve, thank you so much for joining me. I love it. Let's keep this rolling, brother.
Yes, sir.
Peace out.